Stop.
Yeah, but my favorite title for a truck driver, you ready for it?
Go.
Side note.
Side note.
Freight relocation specialist. It
Wow.
sounds, it's true.
It sounds important.
It sounds.
But truckers are important.
They
why
are.
We have to thank them. Really. Welcome to another episode of Just Truck It with
Shawn
and Cilla. We wanted to kind of go over a few things today.
Yeah, kind of basically kind of going over what is trucking, what type of jobs are out there, requirements, things like that. How do I get a CDL even?
Yep, definitely want to go over just the basics. So let's get started. Now, Shawn.
Who's that guy?
How long have you been in this industry?
Oh man, I'm getting old. I know it may not look like it, but I've been in the industry a little over a decade, and started as basically a student, just like everyone else. Went through school, got through school, went to a trucking company. I was a flatbed truck driver over the road for many years, and then from there I was dispatcher temporarily, just to kind of get my feet in the door inside really the trucking companies.
Yeah.
And then actually got hired on by a trucking school, and went from instructor all the way up to director to vice president to basically owning my own school. I've also been a director of safety, a director of recruiting and maintenance at a trucking company. So, I've got to experience a lot of the behind the scenes of trucking, understanding like the spot market, freight, how things move, dispatching, load planning, safety issues. How do you handle accidents? To what could go wrong, and how do you fix things? Ways to tips and tricks to kind of like figure out a way to keep your truck rolling down the road so you can get it fixed later. So I've done quite a bit, and there's so much in here. Sometimes I definitely want to get that out there.
Yeah. So you are definitely qualified probably to answer these questions, huh?
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. So why would someone even want to get started in the trucking industry?
Well, I mean, right now, we're in 2021 making this video, and in the last 12 months, there has been a 30 to 35% increase in pay in the last 12 months in trucking, which is, pretty much more than the last 12 years. The ability to go out there and make a good living for the past 12 years has been great. However, right now it's even more so easier, and the money that students can make fresh out of school is more than I was making with experience 10 years ago. So now, and then if you're an experienced driver, man, you can make so much. They got so many sign-on bonuses. They got all kinds of things they're just throwing at drivers right now, because they want drivers. Back in the day, I did over the road, even though I had a 2-year-old son, and I was doing it to provide, and I really wanted to be home with him. I thought I was missing out on a lot of things, and so I really wanted that home every night job, but there wasn't any that were hiring someone with brand new experience, even 6 months or a year where I was. So I had to put the time in. I had to, to work for it. However, now, I got students coming out of school where they can be home, more frequently than I was able to be home. They could be home on the weekends, maybe sometimes during the week. There's over the road, there's all kinds of different types of regional dedicated that are making so much money, and obviously a lot of factors play into what type of job.
There, though.
Yeah.
So what and I understand you're in the trucking industry, but you know, our viewers, they're not in that field, right?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by regional? What do you mean by over the road? I mean, OTR. There's these verbiage that in trucking field you just don't know.
You're right. So, you know, backtracking here, going kind of back to what the topic was of why someone would get into it, and then hitting that is, you know, hey, I'm working a dead end job. I'm working a job where I'm hurting my body. I'm whether it be what I breathe in or how much manual labor. I'm taking these calls and sitting in a cubicle all day. I'm flipping burgers. My job is only going to take me to here, you know, and a lot of times in trucking, starting out is higher than what that top max out there is. And you have room to grow to where, you know, I see companies like there's a company that is a home every night job. But after you've gotten 2 years experience, man, they're paying $30 to $35 an hour plus overtime. You know, those kind of things are there to achieve and get into that you're not going to be able to get in any other kind of job. There's so much room and advancements in technology. There's always going to be a truck driver in a truck. You know, sorry to kind of go on this tangent.
Yeah, I see this.
There's always going to be a truck driver in a truck. You know, that everyone's like, oh, what about autonomous trucks? Well, they have autonomous planes and trains. You know, believe it or not, they put it on autopilot. But somebody's still got to be in there because someone's still got to be liable for making sure that nobody gets hurt. Safety, you got switching trailers, refueling, whether it's electric or, you know, fuel. You have, you know, unloading, loading. All it's going to do is make the job easier. I mean, think about a pilot. He sits in there, puts it on autopilot and cruises. He's probably playing, watching a movie up there. Who knows? But he's not really doing as much as they used to have to do. So the job is going to get easier. So it's not going to get harder. It's going to actually get easier to do. So you're going to make more money. You have less stress, less issues and problems, health, whatever. And then the job is going to get easier. And then there's so many positions like you were talking about. Regional is basically I'm in a region and I'm going to stick into that region. And so I'm going to have a better chance of, you know, going from here to there and then back and having a little bit more home time. So I might be out for a couple of days, but that's it. I'm not out for a month. I'm not out like the typical old school truck driver used to have to be.
So I have to stop you there. So you mean region as in what? You're still just saying
like the southeastern, or like the eastern seaboard, or like the northeast, or like the Midwest. I'm typically only within 500 miles of my home, you know. Or dedicated means, hey, there's this one customer and that's all I'm going to do. You think about a big store brand. Hey, I'm taking it from, you know, distribution to distribution or distribution to store. And, you know, I'm dedicated to take this from here in this lane all the way to this area and back. And that's all I'm going to ever do is that one lane. Whereas regional, I might bounce around in the region, but I'm close enough to get back home. And then over the road is going to be, hey, I'm out there. Whatever comes. Whatever's going to make the most money, there we go. You know, and then you have owner operator. So after you've been out there, you've learned the industry, definitely do your research after a while, learn there's the taxes you need to know about, the fueling, the maintenance, the safety, the insurance, booking loads, you know. Once you understand logistics and freight brokerage, and you start getting all, you know, take your time while you're out there working for a company, learning it, you know, taking courses, bettering yourself, and then you might want to be an owner operator. Well, owner operator owns their own truck, but they pay for their own fuel, they pay for their own insurance, they pay for a lot of things. You know, there's lease purchase where a company leases you a truck and you make the payment on it. Those always benefit the trucking company. you know, but sometimes people need that, you know, they can't get that going. They need that extra help, you know. And you know, it's hey, tit for tat, you know, is what they say. So but then some people save up money and they buy their own truck, and then they want to lease on to somebody. So there's multiple different phrases here for the different types of trucking out there.
Aren't they called lanes?
What do you mean lanes?
Isn't that what that's called?
What?
OTR or regional? Aren't they lanes?
Well,
Is that not what this called?
a lane.
I'm trying to use the right verbiage.
Well, a lane is typically like more dedicated or,
Okay.
you know, regional, that you're in a certain, you know, corridor of going from here to there. You're on this one lane at that company, that one customer, you know.
Okay.
A lane in civilian terms would be more like, I'm in the right lane. I'm in the fast lane. Well, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It just depends.
That's a billion. And then I'm
in the four-wheeler world.
Oh God.
Hey, that's what truckers call the cars. They call them all four-wheelers because they got four wheels, you know, and they're always cutting us off. The dang four-wheeler.
Oh, okay. Well, and then I wanted to ask, I know you have a few stories about owner operator, and in the sense of when you were in safety, something happened to one of the trucks and they called you at the middle of the night. And after you talked to some people, they gave you a certain price, but you knew it should be a certain price. You remember that story?
Yeah.
Can you tell us that story?
Well, there's always going to be, and being an owner operator, maintenance costs can eat up your entire profit. And not just that, but, you know, obviously fuel, the truck that you buy, what type of truck you buy, you know, especially in this world, there's some trucks that are, you know, a little cheaper made and they break down more than others. And then you have ones that, you know, are like tanks, you know, so it just depends on the truck you get, how old. But tires are always going to be something that's going to need to be replaced, you know, or be a cost. Tires, typical wear and tear, and you're going to have things that happen. And as an owner operator, you start to learn tricks or the ways or things like I had a guy blow out a tire, and when he blew out the tire, it kind of blew out the mud flap and bent it in. Well, if he's a mile or 2 miles down from a place that can fix his tire, to have a road call come out would be astronomical. Now, obviously, you run a risk of dealing with, you know, the police of saying, hey, you can't be doing that and driving there. But, you know, him as an owner operator getting there and limping it there and saved a whole entire service call. But he can't really go there because that mud flap's bent into the other tire almost. So I've run a risk of now having to replace 2 tires, you see? So, you know, that's where, you know, I told him, hey, take a strap around the mud flap hanger to the rear bumper and slide the tandems, and it will actually bend it backwards, spin it right back out. And that will give you, you know, a chance to get there. Or, hey, brake chamber, airline blew. Well, you know, air is what the brakes are for, you know, these trucks. And if there's no air going to the brakes are engaged and you can't go nowhere. So, you know, blocking off the line and gauging the brake and learning how those type of things and maintenance, was able to limp them there and, you know, replace it. You know, those are things that you learn with experience.
I was going to say that. So do you think because of all the years of experience that you talked about earlier is why you were able to come to these conclusions, to figure this out, to get this completed, versus if you just, you know, came out of truck driving school and decided this is what I want to do.
Oh God. I remember the first time straight out of truck driving school, and it's the middle of winter and I needed to put chains on. I had never been taught how to put chains on. I'm on the side of the road trying to put the snow chains on. I don't know how they go on them. They're just not working out for me. Cars throwing freaking, you know, wet snow all on my back of slosh, you know, and I'm like, I'm freezing. I can't figure it out. I'm frustrated. But the thing is, like I said, I'm getting old. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have YouTube. I mean, nowadays, I mean, I need to fix something. I don't know how to work this printer. Oh, I just look it up. There it is. Now I know how to do it. So there's, you know, there's ways to look up from experienced truckers that have, you know, blessed us with their knowledge of how to fix these situations. You just gotta look it up. You know, you gotta take the initiative and learn on your own ways or tricks to keep rolling, because you know the wheels ain't turning. You ain't making no money.
Exactly. So that's why you definitely, even to our students all the time, you tell them work for a company up front versus right off the jump go straight into owner operator.
And insurance is just outrageous. Yeah. There's only really one company that will insure a brand new person as an owner operator, and like the cost of it's almost a truck payment, you know, if not more. So and that's just also depending on your background, your driving record, things like that. It might even be higher. So, you know, here you are going to try to make extra cash, but you're going to spend more on the other, on insurance and everything up front. So it's like, go get your experience, go prove yourself, go show that you know what you're doing, keep a good, safe record. And then, you know what, by all means, if that's what you want to do. But, you know, that's one thing, you know, we talk about in regular jobs. Do you, when you're looking to hire someone, Priscilla, if you got a resume and they've worked for 6 companies in the last 2 years, would you hire them?
No, there's no loyalty.
That's right. So I know in trucking, we think as truck drivers, we get that sense of entitlement. There's a driver shortage. They need drivers, but I got a clean, safe record. Oh, you know, hey, they don't treat me right. They don't treat me right. Fine, bye, out. You know, I'll go to the next place. The problem comes, you never give someone the opportunity to either fix the situation, learn how you work. They got to learn how to work with you. You know, you're brand new. You got to learn their ways too. And if there's an issue, you got to work it out with them. And if they're not willing to work it out, that's a different story. But there's multiple ways to handle it. But if you start job hopping or paper chasing, as they say, for more money and this and that, all you're doing is hurting yourself. I remember as being a director of recruiting, and we talked about this in another episode with Matt Beach, when you're going through the whole hiring process and they're looking through with for that needle in that haystack of all of your history. I remember, you know, being told by my bosses, hey, they got X amount of jobs in X amount of time. We don't want them because, like you said, there's no loyalty. So switching companies a bunch is not going to help you. So stick with at least 6 months to a year with at least one company and prove yourself. Yeah. And then decide from there what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, overall, if you think about it, they all really make around the same amount of money when they have no experience, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why they did the data from all the companies that hire, you know, students, because there's only so many that can hire because of insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, insurance, we keep talking about that because I mean, you're driving a vehicle on the road, there's got to be insurance, liability. So there comes the whole insurance company deciding what that company can hire and what they can't. So with all those factors, you're going to have a situation where you're going to only make, you know, about X amount. Like, you know, somebody that you went to school with or someone you know, or might say, hey, I'm making X amount. Well, by the time you factor in all the cost of, you know, you quitting the company, you going through orientation, waiting for obviously orientation, then going through orientation, you might have to go through some training with them. That's all reduced pay, and they factor in all of those things at all the companies, and that's where they come out with that base average amount for a first-year driver is going to be X amount, and you can look it up on the you know, Department of Labor stats and things like that. It's all over the place, and that's because there's not going to be somebody making an enormous amount and someone making a very low amount, it's going to somewhere be around that middle range that everyone's going to be at. And if you start trying to hop here, hop there, trying to get just a little bit more, oh, I just need an extra $100, $200 a week. Well, in the average and then in the game, you're just ruining your future career being able to do that and more.
Yep.
Because of all the jobs you've had.
Exactly. And I kind of want to backtrack. I know I'm all over the place and you are too.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to or need to talk about the requirements. I can't even speak. Can't say the word. Shawn, take it from here.
Requirements?
That word.
Yeah, we're going to put that on the blooper reel.
No, stop. We can put it on the regular stuff.
The requirements that companies have.
What matter? Yeah, what really matters and what doesn't. Because I know some people sometimes get scared because they might have certain things, or some people might not be scared at all and they have other things. So can we elaborate kind of on what's that?
Yeah, so there's multiple aspects that are taken into consideration. One is going to be your motor vehicle background. So every company has rules and guidelines that they face with the insurance company and their safety department on the years that they go back and they hold you accountable for. So some might say 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years, you know, or so on and so forth. And major violations like reckless driving or an accident where someone got hurt badly or things like that can affect you on the company that can hire you because of their guidelines. Like I had multiple speeding tickets over 15. I had like 3 in a year, and it was in the last 3 years or in the last year.
Okay.
Well, that might be an issue for most companies. Most companies have a general guideline, and they pretty much all follow that. It's basically if you have too much there, that could play a factor. And I'll talk about, you know, the opportunities that you can figure out with that. But then there's also your background. So felonies, misdemeanors, those are all major factors as well.
Yeah.
And some companies say, well, yeah, we're a second chance company. Everyone deserves one. And so they're a little bit more lenient than others. And then some are, hey, we're a first chance company. So a felony or a misdemeanor plays a factor. Obviously, misdemeanors is a little bit less of an issue.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you one thing. They always find out. And so many times we have seen people try to not tell even us about anything, thinking, oh, well, they're not going to know or they're not going to find out. And I tell you what, every single time that trucking company finds out, it may take them a little while because they go through looking for that needle in the haystack, but they sure do find it. And when they find it, oh my God, that looks so bad on you because it's going to show on your DAC report. And we'll talk about that type of stuff later, like DAC reports, hire right, 10th Street, how companies use all that. We'll talk about that in another episode, so stay tuned for that. But in this situation, being honest is truthfully the best thing, you know, telling right up front, you know, that way people that can help you or try to find ways to help you versus they're going down the rabbit hole in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So what do you think? Let's say I have something in my background. I'm kind of questioning it. How do I know if I qualify or not qualify? Like, who should I reach out to? What should I do if I was in that predicament? Should I just quit and not even try?
No, not at all. I mean, honestly, there are quite a few companies that are second chance companies. Yeah. You can Google them, second chance, you know, trucking companies. There's a couple websites out there that are geared towards helping students in that kind of frame of mind.
Okay.
But going a little bit backwards, just real quick here, and moving forward. Mm-hmm. Another thing I was going to touch on real quick is drug screening.
Ooh,
and physicals. Drug screening and physicals. Hey, you got MVR background, but you forgot about the other two. Those are very important. Okay, so with drug screens, some companies, and a lot are moving towards this a lot, are going hair follicle. Now, they might say 3 months is all they go back, but it just depends on what type of hair. I mean, the last time my arm hair grew was, I was a kid almost, you know? So if you ain't got anything up here,
when you were
hey,
a kid?
I'm just saying, if you ain't got no hair up here, or you try to play the game of, well, I'll just shave it, right? And you don't have a beard that's as luscious as mine. I'm just kidding. You know, they're going to take it from someone. They're going to take it from your armpits. They're going to take it from your arm.
Your legs. Yes. I've seen that.
Yeah. And they got this big old patch on it. Yeah. And that might go back farther to 6 months to a year. So, I mean, and then once you fail a drug screen, you're out. I mean, you go into the clearinghouse, look at episode 1 with Matt. We talk about that. The clearinghouse is you know, gonna really put you back with what companies can even touch you, and that's very, very limited, if anything. Yeah. And so, you know, some do urine. I saw it all the time. I got this. Yeah, it's been a long time. They're saying, oh, because it's been 30 days in their head. It has nothing to do with the days. It has everything to do with your body composition, your BMI, your fat percentage, you know, because it gets stored in the fat cells. So it might be 30 days for X person, but for, you know, Z person, it's going to be 45 to 60 days.
Well, it also depends on how much you did it.
Yeah, frequency.
Yeah, if you've done it, you know, ever since you were X age and it's been 10 years you've been doing it, it'll take a lot longer than 30 days.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, like you were saying, the fat percentage.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody super, super, super thin might go quicker than someone who's a little bigger.
Yeah. And those at-home little remedies that you buy from the store, they don't work. If anything, they just dilute it enough to where it shows a false negative.
Yeah.
And then that
you got to do it again.
You got to do it again, or they deem that as not being reliable and they choose not to go forward, you know, and that you just ruin everything. So it's always best to go to the urgent care or something and take a drug screen on your own self. You can do that. Do a drug screen on yourself. If you're worried about that, take one on your own. And at least you know when you get the results back that you're good before you go and try to do this and then you ruin your career before you even start it.
Yep.
And then there's physicals. And people got to understand this. There's 2 types of doctors. There's your personal physician that is there to make sure that you live a long, healthy, safe life. And then there's a DOT doctor, you know, and everyone wants to be truthful, wants to be honest with everything they do. And I fully understand that. But you got to understand the difference. You're not there when you do a physical to try to get everything fixed. Yeah. You're there to tell them of any current situations you're going through that could hold you back from driving a truck. And you keep it simple to that. That's one thing that, you know, a lot of companies see, because I had a lady put on there, she had a C-section because she had a kid.
I just want to tell you the same thing. One lady who said, and don't get me wrong.
I know it says on there about any surgeries and things like that, but that's not going to prevent you from driving.
It said she got her body done. And it was like 4 years ago. I was like, well, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's obviously between you. That's a, you know, a HIPAA thing to make sure, you know, you understand that. But this is you got to understand the job versus your personal crazy decisions or things that have happened to you that don't really matter at all. Like a root canal. Like, I don't need to put a root canal down, you know? But one thing that they do look at is going to be your blood pressure, because, you know, if it's too high, you might pass out. And then if you pass out or you have a seizure while you're driving a truck, that could hurt somebody or kill somebody. Vision, because you can't see where you're going, you know? Being able to see, blood pressure, and then if you have a certain like fat percentage, and you tell them that you have problems sleeping, and you have a certain neck size, then they're going to suggest a sleep study. And then you got to get that done prior to them usually giving you anything. Some will give you a 3-month, but they want to see results, and it can get you on a plan. So
and some companies won't take you.
Yeah, they won't take you because it's such a short period of time that you have that they can't really count on you being able. They're going to invest all this time and effort and training you and getting you there. And I don't know if you're even going to be able to continue to be here in 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, why should I do that?
Well, plus you need to take care of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's serious because once again, these are one of those things that if you're not getting enough sleep at night, I mean, you're going to be driving.
Yeah.
So definitely take that serious in those
your
senses.
Health, water, exercise, what you eat. You know, everyone wants to be like, I need to work out to lose weight and be healthy. In all honesty, that's 20% of it.
Yeah.
Eating right, drinking water. Those are I know, but those are things that can that can really change, you know, a lot of what you see on these physicals that get rejected.
Yeah.
If you had just taken those steps maybe a month or two ago, you know, just that little bit, it goes a long way.
It really does. Now,
now go back to what you were saying.
About what? We're all over the place tonight. About what?
Requirements. We were talking about requirements, and then we went into. I can edit that out.
Okay.
I went back to the drug screen and physical. Right before that, you were trying to talk about something. I should have wrote that down.
You should have.
Yes, you should have wrote that down.
Wow, really?
Yeah, of all the things you want to write down.
Well, because I don't write down when you say, "Oh, well, let me go back."
Now you know.
Now I know when to write something.
Yeah. So like it was about what it was like had to do with something like what companies will hire you or with issues.
No, I said, what should you do? Where should I go if I have anything in my background? I wanted you to say schools. And you go, oh, websites. I was so mad. I'm like, really? This is the best time to talk about schools, and you want them to go online?
Yeah. So I can back that up. So right here,
we're about to.
No. So obviously have covered, you know, some of those different types of requirements or disqualifications, you may say, that companies are looking at. And if you're worried about, you know, and you're brand new and you're worried about who can take you, who can't, contact your local school. I mean, they really have a wealth of knowledge of the local, your local school, of the new student or student kind of companies out there and what they can take and what they can't take. Yeah, especially the second chance companies, they know a lot about.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, schools, there are so many recruiters who reach out to the schools. So they really just know what kind of jobs you can have. And that's why, you know, you were saying earlier about being honest up front with your local truck driving school, CDL school, anything. Be honest with them, because they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to figure out a way of what you're going to do once you get that CDL.
Yeah.
So your schools definitely know those type of recruiters will know what you can talk about and what you need to tell and where you can go. Because I mean, there is websites. However, I know it's real tedious and it might take a long time.
And it might be
might not be.
I can't even talk. Like you rubbed off on me.
Oh,
yeah. But it might not be current. It might not be up to date. So it might be stuff. And the pay keeps changing here lately. Like every couple of months, there's a new pay increase or a new sign-on bonus that the company rolls out. So up-to-date information, especially with them needing drivers. They're loosening up the belt a little bit on some of the requirements too. So there's quite a few that I can think of top of my head of companies that if you have some of these issues, they still will take you. You know, this is one of those kind of jobs where your past doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't define you. It's if you're trying to change your life, there's plenty of people that I've met in the school that have gone to prison for a couple of years. They, and then they've gotten out. They've proved themselves as a good member of society, and then after that, they've come through school and they've gotten a job where they're making over $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, and this is before all these pay increases and things, and they've started their own trucking company.
Yeah.
So I mean, you see it as one of those opportunities, out there. You might have to take a little bit less pay up front. You might have to take a little bit lesser job than you would want to have taken, or it may not be the home time that you were wanting or something like that, but at least it gets your foot in the door and gets you to that next point of having experience. Yeah. To where it overshadows those previous things you've done.
Yep. I mean, and just on the other end, we've had people who are straight and narrow, and they get the same type of jobs as them and making great money. And, it's definitely not a career that's very, what is that word? Very judgmental.
Yeah.
They just care about what's going on right now. As long as, like we said earlier, just being honest and just talking about it.
They love honesty. Like,
they really do.
And that kind of ties back into about the MBR, the requirements and things like that. Mm-hmm. I've talked into so many, directors of recruiting, vice presidents, recruiters themselves, and they just want honesty. And if you had an accident or you had a misdemeanor, they don't want to hear, and goes back to that episode 1 again. We keep talking, where they don't want to hear an excuse.
Yeah.
Excuses, leave that, at the door. Save that for mom. But they want honesty, and they want effort of, I messed up. Taking accountability. That's the word I'm looking for. Take accountability for your actions, and that this happened or that happened. It is what it is, and I've made adjustments to my life. They want to see improvement, and as long as you're honest, you might get a better shot at that would have been a no-go before. I've seen a lot where they were on borderline in that little gray area on the fence, and just by them being honest and not making excuses, just that one not making excuses got them that job.
Well, and on top of it, being honest, like with the school, mm-hmm. They'll tell you, you know what, let's just wait for this date, and then you should start the school.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is so much more helpful, because if you turn around and you're just gung-ho about getting this license, which is amazing, and we totally encourage it, but then you talk to someone and you explain your situation, and they can give you the realism of it, of what's going on. I mean, I think that's more helpful than you getting this license and not being able to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just spend your time, spend your money. It's return on investment. And I talk to our students about this all the time when they come in. I don't want you to waste your time yet. Let's wait the 6 months, go do something for a while, come back, and we can, you can go right into it, and then you're going to get a job right away.
Yeah.
And at least you know what to expect moving forward. So definitely like that advice. Now we've been talking forever. Let's get to our final question.
Okay.
Now, what steps do I take now that you've totally sold me on becoming this amazing truck driver?
Okay.
To make all this crazy money, as well as being able to provide society with lots of clothing and food.
Essential worker.
You're totally an essential worker. I like that.
Exactly.
I mean, think about it. We did stuff.
Yeah, but my favorite title for a truck driver, you ready for it? No. Side note. Freight relocation specialist. It sounds, it's true.
It sounds important.
It sounds.
But truckers are important.
That's why
we have to thank them, really.
And that's the thing, is it's gotten, the old school trucker, it has done so much for us, but yet it has this connotation sometimes in society that you're a redneck dude with a toothpick in your mouth,
or
and
you're
a trucker
just
hat.
a lower. Yeah.
And it's not. It's for women. It's for men. It's for all walks of society. People that don't like talking to people or can't deal with people, to people that love people. It's for everyone. It's an all-inclusive job to make a lot of money in, and it's definitely providing something to our society that we need. I mean, we saw what happened with COVID, like you said, with the toilet paper and everything. That when the moment all that stuff happened, if it wasn't for truckers, the shelves would be empty. And then what happens at the grocery stores, and then the hoarding happens. Society almost collapses at the moment that trucking stops. I mean, FEMA and the FMCSA put out moratoriums to allow truckers with essential freight, essential goods, not cars for sell, but really important goods. I mean, they were giving them waivers on their hours and things like that because of how important they were to getting the freight moved. So I mean, trucking is something you can be proud of, and you should be proud of.
Yeah, I really like that because it's very inclusive.
Yeah.
I love even our students here. They come from everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, from Russia to India,
Africa
to right here from America.
Yeah.
And they
down the street.
I know. I love it. And they can make so much money, and it's so awesome. But
so how do you get into it? Right?
Yes. How do you get into it? Finally.
Right.
Let's talk about the meats.
Okay. Well, number one, in order to even get a permit to get started, you got to have a DOT physical.
Okay, which we talked about.
Yep, got to have a DOT physical.
For more than like 3 months, or it doesn't matter?
It does not matter as long as you have a physical that is active and current and valid. That's the only way to get a permit. To get a permit, you have to pass knowledge test.
Ooh.
Not hands-on or skill, but knowledge, depending on the commercial vehicle that you're going to drive. You might have general knowledge always. You might have, if it has air brakes, then you'll have air brakes. If it doesn't, you won't have to take that. You have a combination for anything that's more than one vehicle. So class B won't have to take it, but you have those knowledge tests to get the permit. Then once you get the permit, the typical, every state's different, but typically they want you to wait about 14 days before you can even test for a CDL. Okay. And in that period of time or longer, that's when you learn how to back it up. You learn your pre-trip. Yeah, all your skills. So driving, backing, and pre-trip. We got videos on all those.
Yes.
And once you've learned those and you've gotten those down pat, you take a CDL test.
Okay.
Okay. Once you've taken a CDL test, then you can go to work. Now, in the meantime of doing all of this, you've done your research. You've looked for companies. You're either at a school or something. I know laws are changing in February. You can't just show up at the DMV and take a test because your grandfather or dad showed you how to drive a truck.
What do I have to do now?
That's ending. You have to have received entry-level driver training. You have to have proof that you've done it through an approved FMCSA federal government training provider.
Okay.
So you have theory, which covers like 30 plus topics that you have to have gotten an 80% or better on and have done in order to be able to prove your theory has been sufficiently done. Yeah. And then certified. And then you have behind the wheel training that has to be certified on by a provider. And once those two things are in the system in the National Registry for the federal government, only then can you take a CDL test. And that's supposedly February of next year, 2022.
That's when it starts.
That's when it starts. So you have to do that then. And you have to go to a school or you just really can't, even test. So in doing your research in the middle of all of this, that's when you're looking for your job, your company, what you can meet requirements, what you want to do. And then one thing we didn't talk about is the different types of trucking. There's flatbed, there's refrigerated, there's liquid tankers, whether it's hazardous materials or your milk and orange juice and things like that. You have dry van, which is your typical trucks you see driving down the road with the trailers that are just a box, you know, that's a van, dry van. There's no refrigerated unit in the front. Then you have the ones refrigerated for like meats and things that need to stay cool. And then you have your flatbed for construction materials and things like that. There's all those types of different jobs, which have their own pros and cons, depending on what you can do. And they all have their own lanes, as you had talked about. And they have their own pay. You know, somebody doing flatbed is probably not going to get a whole bunch of miles because you got loading and unloading. So that's generally why the pay is higher in flatbed, you know, because they're compensating for the miles that you can't turn like a typical dry van. And then, you know, everything's just different. Do your research, call your school, online, whatever. Sometimes too much research can confuse you sometimes. And sometimes if you don't look at the sources that they're quality, you can kind of get the wrong information. So that's a key side note. But, you know, there's once you've already gotten your job. So then now that you've gotten your CDL, then you go to work at your company, and that's something we'll talk about later is what happens there and past there, you know. But definitely the aspect of doing it hands-on is crucial because it's not as easy as it looks. A lot of people have a lot more respect after they've gone through school. I do think, you know, I hear all the time, man, I wish I knew this even when as a kid, when getting my permit, you know, I was 15 and 16, get my license. I wish I knew as you know, a little bit about what I see out here driving down the road in this big truck. Back then, I'd understand better about the space and how I can't stop, you know, and those type of things. In reality, it's not as easy as it looks, but it is easy. The problem is we like to overthink it, and when we overthink things, we make it harder, and then we confuse ourselves, have high expectations. We episode 2, watch that one. It's a good one for it. It's getting this right. And you know, as long as you do those type of things in that episode, you know, you have a better chance of making it. And, you know, just putting forth effort and putting forth investment in your future and taking it seriously goes a long way. It's not going to get handed to you. They're not going to, just because you went through school or just because you got your permit, you're going to get a CDL. It doesn't work like that. It takes effort. It takes practice. It takes studying. It takes so many students say, I remember even myself, I'm talking about pre-trip in my dreams, you know, and I wake up saying pre-trip things, you know. I remember being an examiner, you know, all the tests I did, I'd have nightmares on this part was properly mounted and it was secured and not damaged. But there's so much that goes into learning that it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I get questions all the time. Oh, am I guaranteed a class A after that? No, because what's your favorite quote? I could take a horse to the water, but I can't force him a drink. So we can, you know,
sometimes, you know, if I wasn't going to go to jail, some of them I want it so bad for them because I see what they're going through. I just want to take that and just drink it all up, but I can't, you know.
Yeah, we can't force you to study when you're at home. We can't force you, I mean, to get on these trucks when we tell you it's your turn. If you don't want to go, the next person does, then it's the next person's turn.
And the biggest thing I see is people build something up in their head to be so, because they want it so bad that it's something that it's not. When you've been trained already, you know it. But they get there and they just freak out.
Well, because it's a big truck, don't you think?
No, like they're just nervous. They've already been doing it in school for so long. They've already got it down pat. They do it like all day, and to the point where at school they get like 98s, 100s, 95s, because they're just killing it at school. They've done so well, and then now they get there and they want it so bad, but they're so nervous because this person holding a clipboard or a tablet, and they go because they test anxiety. They just
it happens. Okay.
So no one can guarantee you're going to get it because you have the only one there to fail you is you.
Yeah. Well, so steps that we have to take first is always going to be what? The first thing was DOT physical.
Yeah.
Drug screen, talk to a school, or at least talk to them to see what if everything in your background, including MVR, so tickets, accidents, motor vehicle report, and
get a job. Make sure you can get a job first before you pay for everything.
Yeah.
And then getting your theory done and learning so you can pass your permit, passing all the knowledge tests, putting the time in and behind the wheel training.
And if it's after February 2022, got to get certain theories done, got to get certain behind the wheel time done. Once again, I know we keep preaching this, but go to your local school and find out what has to get completed, because you don't want to start something, get to the test, and find out you can't even test.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we've had stories where they got to the test, and once they started their test, their tester told them, hey, you need to go to school because I know you learned everything off of a YouTube video.
Yeah, because you're saying stuff that isn't going to pass.
Yeah.
And on top of it, you're just you've memorized it, and you don't know what you're talking about because you're skipping around. Yeah. So definitely I've seen them end it because the person had no clue in the world. They're just, well, I would check the oil, but they don't know what to say around that. That's just basic stuff. They don't know the air brake test or anything like that. So to wrap it all up here, simply this: next episode, we've got quite a few coming, but the next one of just us is going to talk more about what happens after you've gotten the job and your CDL from that point past. And then
comment, let us know if you have any other question that we haven't answered. I know it's a brand new field and so many of you just don't know what to do next, or you have other questions that we weren't able to answer. So comment below, let us know. Subscribe to us so you can hear all of our fantastic speakers that are going to join us soon. And let us know what y'all think.
Please tell us stuff so that way I can take it from here and put it there.
Exactly. We want to definitely help because we understand it's a new field for so many, and we really need more drivers. So we want to make this as exciting as possible for you. Yeah,
it's such a great career, and we love it so much, the trucking industry. So how can we give back? And that's by you. Yes. Helping you get there as well. So please reach out, and current drivers, please give us some information too. Yeah. We'd love to hear from you about, positive experiences or things that you wish, other than the negative crap you hear from everyone in every job about this. But I mean, things you think, new people should know, things you think current experienced drivers need to do. I won't sidetrack. I wish more people brought back the arm pump for all, all the kids. Bring back the arm pump. Bring it back. I want to see it more because that made you feel like you somebody. Like that made me feel important. Like you are showing me appreciation more than anything in the world. Giving me an arm pump. That makes my day every time I got it. I know every trucker out there listening knows what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, definitely want to say thank you for being a trucker. If you are listening and are an experienced driver, thank you so much. We cannot live without you guys. And we're out.
Peace.